days are left in the week, Scott? 1. So if you haven't had any quizzes so far, and there's only 1 day left, what's probably going to happen tomorrow? Good. Quiz! So this is to help you get ready. So I've been going through it, and as you think, I don't know this stuff. You should take your study sheet home and study it tonight so that you are ready for stuff that may or may not happen tomorrow. But it's most likely going to happen tomorrow. Wait, raise your hand. Yes, Jaden?
So I'm glad I have pencils and pens because normally I have them in our pocket and I don't know that I have them in this.
Good. So I'm glad you're prepared. Alright, so we haven't played this game yet. Some of you remember it from last year, and that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question. The first person to raise their hand, so kind of like the popcorn game, gets to answer the question. If you get it right, you get to pick a number. There is a treasure chest hidden behind one of my numbers. So you can try to guess where it is. Part of it is just luck, and part of it is just good guessing, and part of it is you have to know stuff because I can't call on you at all if you don't raise your hand. But you should always be writing stuff down or writing them down or participating. So if I don't see your hand moving, that means you don't know stuff. So make sure you are writing things down. Alright, so thinking back over it, what is the study of living things? Go. That one too early, Lana. Cheater. Alright.
Biology?
Biology. Alright, pick a number.
5.
5. Alright, what is the study of animals specifically? Cheater.
Oh, phrase.
Go. Okay, that was good.
Zoology.
Zoology.
22.
22. What is the study of the structure of an organism? So like your arm, like what do you call like the study of like the structure, the parts of it? Remember, palms on your desk, no, I said go. Go. I think it was Scott really. Anatomy, pick a number. What is the study of how the structure, how the organism moves? So like how your arm moves. What is the study of the organism's function? Go. Just gotta be faster, Evie. All right.
Physiology.
Physiology.
28.
28. What is another name for a living thing? Go. That was one. I mean, sorry. That was Jaden.
Organism.
Organism.
16.
What is the study of itty bitty organisms too small for us to see with our eyes? Go. It's gotta be faster, Evie. It's gotta be faster than that. Alright.
Microbiology.
Microbiology. Good job.
31.
31. What is the name for a scientist that studies biology? Go. Okay, it was one in the back.
Botanist.
A botanist? Nope.
Biologist.
Biologist. So it's studying biology. Biologist. Now you're right that a botanist is someone that studies plants specifically. Alright. 11. Let's see. We talked about how there are 3 main purposes for science. Name one for studying science. Go. Okay, good.
To learn more about God's creation and how He made things function and stuff.
Okay, I'll take that. So observing nature, discovering the laws of creation or how it works, and for man's benefit. Yes.
Are we supposed to like on the rows or something?
Yep. Well, just write down purpose of creation. It's on page 2. It's in italics on that page. So it'll help you to remember if you look at your notes and think, purpose of studying science? What did I mean by that? If you're at page 2, hopefully you'll find it, because that's the italicized sentence on that page. Alright. What was it?
26.
26. Alright, let's see. Oh, what do you call the study of organisms interacting with their surroundings and each other? So how they live together. Go. Yeah, I think it was when.
Habitat.
Habitat?
Environment.
Nope. Ecology, the study of how they live together. Habitat is where they live, and environment is the area surrounding them. So the study is how the organisms live together. Okay. 14. Let's see. Alright, what do you call that stable internal environment that your body has to have? So, like, your body has to be a certain temperature. So what do we call that? The stable internal environment. Go. Oh, Scott. Homeostasis. Hey, Scott. Okay, remember, not too loud. What was it?
35.
35, I'll find it eventually. is the substance in food that provide an organism with energy? So remember, this isn't calories and this isn't carbohydrates. What's the general term? I feel like y'all are like spastically waving at me whenever y'all do that. Go. Scott was the fastest. Nutrients.
Two.
Alright, yes.
Did you forget to put the treasure chest up there?
I don't think so. If I forgot, then everyone gets a piece of candy because that's false hope. So it should be up there. Normally I don't forget. I think it's happened maybe like one time where I forgot to like actually do it. It went through the whole thing and there was no treasure chest. So that was sad and depressing at that point.
So do you know which one is under?
I don't remember because a lot of the boards are preset where I put them basically the year before, and I don't remember at this point. I know generally where I have a tendency to put them, but on the day of, I don't remember typically because I set them up ahead of time. Let's see. What is the process by which life continues through the generation into the next generation of organisms? Go. I think it was Lana.
Reproduction?
Reproduction, you got it.
23.
Alright, what is the, what do we call the transmission of characteristics from parents to offspring? This is why you have 2 eyes and 2 ears, is because your parents pass this on to you. Go. Okay, I think it was Scott and then Danielle.
Ready.
Heredity.
9.
Was that 9? No. Alright, let's see. What do we call the process whenever your cells combine the nutrients with oxygen to make energy? This is a 2-word one. Remember, this is a long one.
Oh.
Glad you remembered, Hayden. Hang on. Go. Okay, I think it was Lana.
Cellular respiration.
Cellular respiration. So if you didn't know that one, make sure to write it down. Let's see, what do we call the type of energy that they make? It's a special chemical, it's 3 letters. We talked about this yesterday. I guess the day before too. Go. Just gotta be faster, Danielle.
APT.
ABT?
APT.
APT.
ATP.
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 Okay, you can't just keep swapping letters.
ATP.
Okay, take the final answer.
ATP.
ATP?
ATP.
That is it.
Hey.
ATP.
7.
Oh my.
So what happens if we find the treasure?
And then you win. You get this candy. Let's see. Okay, that's everything on this page. What's another name for animal life specifically? Trying to watch everyone once. Go. Alright, Danielle.
Fauna.
That is fauna.
15.
Alright, what is the name for plant life specifically? Go. Okay, that was Glenn.
Flora.
What?
Flora.
Flora. 3. What is, okay, if you're thinking about the different types of symmetry, how you can cut animals or plants or people even into half or multiple slices, what type of symmetry is it that's where you can only cut it in one way or on one plane to get a right and a left sides? This is the type of symmetry that people and most animals have. Go. Okay, I think it was Lana. Bilateral.
32.
What? Alright, I think I still have a lot of turns. I have a couple more, so we might can do a fast game depending on how fast our with this. I might can do another one. Okay.
I know, just didn't get it, Anna. I didn't think she'd get it. For some reason, I had a hunch it would be under 18. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, this is a new one, so let's see if y'all can find it in the next couple minutes before I run out of turns. Alright, so I'll give you candy a little bit. What type of symmetry is it whenever it's like a circle and you can cut it in multiple different ways, like a pizza? So what do you call that one, where you can have multiple ways to create a mirror half? Go. That was Scott.
Radial.
Radial. Alright.
34.
34. Alright. What type of symmetry is it whenever there is no way to cut it? Like a tree or like an amoeba, it's the sides are too different. There's no way to get them to cut it where you have the same on each side. You're right. Oh, I'm sorry. Go. Okay, that was Jaden.
Asymmetry?
Asymmetry, or asymmetrical, technically.
28.
28. Alright, what do you call the area that surrounds where the organism lives, or that surrounds where the organism is being studied? So not its home, but what do you call the area around it? Go. Too early. Danielle.
Environment.
Environment.
10.
Alright, what do you call where an organism lives? Go. Okay, that was done. That's habitat.
Sleeping.
Okay, hang on. I can't hear him. I'll leave you talking. Alright, what do you call, a land environment? So this is an environment that is on land. We're going to talk about the ones that are in water later on. Go. Scott.
Terrestrial.
Terrestrial.
25.
25. What do you call an animal that is not alive, active, mainly during the day? Go. Okay, I think that was Hayden.
Diurnal or dire?
Diurnal.
Oh, let's go 23.
Alright, what do you call an animal that's mainly active at night? Hi, bud. Go. That was Danielle.
Nocturnal.
That's nocturnal. Okay, not too
18.
low, Jaden.
18.
18. Alright, what do you call it whenever they go into an inactive state? Some trees go into a type of hibernation, but what's the general term that just means that it's an inactive state? Go. Give us Glenn, Glenn's getting fast. Dormant.
So.
Well, alright. I think that's all my turns, so I think we're out. We're good. We'll give everyone one more free guess. Alright, Danielle, pick one.
20.
Yep. Alright, Lana. Alright, Hayden.
32.
Alright, Jaden.
29.
Alright, Glenn.
13.
13. Scott.
5.
Alright, Evie, all on you. 17.
Do you know where it was?
No one
I don't remember, but maybe I
Press
can
off
use the
the
same
break.
word.
You mean-
No, you can just wait. Alright, go ahead and take out your textbook and turn to page 11.
I think it was 15 or 14.
Maybe. Alright, so we were talking about different types of habitats. Now, we've been talking about terrestrial environment specifically. Now, if it's terrestrial, what does that mean, Glenn? Yep.
Oh, it's environmental link.
You know, it's environmental land. So we're talking about the different types of terrestrial environment specifically. So these would be the animals that live on land mainly. So your book talked about meadows yesterday, we talked about forests loosely. And so now we're getting into all the different types of other environments on land, and then we're going to start talking about the water environments as well. So your book points out a forest environment is another one. We talked about the meadow mainly yesterday. I talked about the forest a little bit. Your forest could have box turtles, deer, mice, many other types of birds. What's another animal you can find in the forest? Lana?
Like a
Uh,
No.
I'm going to say, not really coyotes, but maybe wolves or foxes, depending on where you're at. So yeah, you can have those there. Coyotes typically live more out west. All right, Glenn?
Okay.
Bobcat, again, depending on where you're at.
Bear.
Bears, again, depending on where. We actually, when I grew up in Louisiana, we actually have some small types of black bears that still lived in the area. I never saw them because they would hide deep in the woods, but they still have them. Okay.
Raccoon.
Raccoons, so yeah, so many types of animals that live in a forest area. Your butcher's talking about, in some animals, they live in trees though. So what would be an animal that mainly lived in the tree? Alright.
A bird.
A bird. So those are the ones, not your bird, I'm not the book man. It talks about squirrels as well, birds. No, it doesn't mean they live just in trees and that's it. It's the idea of that's where their home typically is. So how many of you have squirrels in your area, like around your house? Okay, since we live in the south, there's typically a lot of gray squirrels or red squirrels. Typically we have the gray ones down here. Wait, raise your hand. Yes, ma'am?
We have one mother red squirrel in our backyard, and she's got like this orangish red tail.
Aww.
And she just had her offspring not too long ago, but it feels like it was about 6 months ago or something. So, and they walk around with her, they all follow her.
Aw, that's cute.
I
Alright,
saw a white squirrel or whatever.
an albino one?
Yeah, in my backyard.
Okay, those you have to watch for because does he stand out in the environment or does he blend in?
Where I saw him, he was standing out because he was like in someone's yard.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now, if they have a white fur, is there a lot of things outside in the woods that are white for him to blend into? No, that only really blends into, like, if it's snowy, then his fur helps him out. Where is he? When I was in college, there was a family of albino squirrels that lived on campus. There's about 5 of them, and like all of the college students liked them. Unfortunately, a hawk moved into the area, and since the albino squirrels, they don't blend in, you would notice, the number of albino squirrels I noticed is disappearing. Until eventually there was no more albino squirrels. And then the hawk moved on, and that was sad. But that's part of the reason as to how come God designed animals to have certain colors to help blend in. Because some colors, like being pure white as an animal, typically doesn't help you blend in that well. So watch the albino squirrel and pray for him because he needs some extra help because his natural camouflage is not there. Alright, so just make a note that we call these animals like squirrels and birds arboreal. That means that they live typically up in the trees. Now, they can come down and they can eat on the ground, but it's the idea of typically their home is in the trees. So make a note of that, arboreal. These are animals that live in the trees, so like squirrels and birds, these are the main ones for it. Your book points out that one of the forests is also a habitat for mosses or mushrooms, so other types of plants as well. Typically, mosses and mushrooms, they like more of a shady area or kind of a damp or moist. I know a lot of people don't like that word today, but it's more of a damp area because that's where they typically grow better. Or they like to grow among rotting vegetation. They like to be able to grow more in that area as well. But your book points out you should never, ever, ever, ever eat wild mushrooms, even if you see an animal eat it. Why should you never eat a mushroom that you just find out? Evie. Yes. Now, some people, if they know what they're doing, they can tell that one's poisonous, that one's not, that one's okay. But unless you've had a lot of practice and someone's taught you, don't just decide it's probably safe and eat it. You will probably be very, very sick and possibly die from it. So do not do that. Now, some animals, they can eat mushrooms and they're okay and they're fine. But you are not a deer and you are not a raccoon, so you do not need to try that. So just make a note of that topic sentence. Never eat a wild mushroom. Even if you see animals doing it, don't do it. You are not an animal like the deer. So your body is not designed for it. Alright, next page. Your book kind of takes a break and kind of shifts over instead of talking about environment, so we'll come back to this in a little bit. But your book kind of talks about now, okay, looking at animal tracks or deer prints or other types of animals, typically in the mud or in the snow. So let's read through this and then we'll actually practice this a little bit. And I don't have to know it for like quizzes and tests to figure out which animal left which type of mark. You don't have to know it, but it is kind of interesting and it is kind of a fun skill to have if you're out wandering in nature to see, that's a bobcat. Raise your hand, raise your hand. Yep.
That thing is so cute.
Yeah, he's a cute picture of him.
Eat that one.
Yeah, but the hunter's looking for him, so the bear should probably move a little bit farther away because if the hunter finds him, the bear won't be smiling any longer. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's read through this. Now, we have a lot of reading today. If you look, if these 2 pages, we have some, and then there's hopefully going to be some more later on. So everyone's probably going to get a turn today. So who wants to read first then, the first paragraph? Alright, Jaden.
In the meadow or forest, birds and insects are easily spotted, but it takes patience and planning to find larger animals. It may seem discouraging not to see these larger animals, but there is another way to see them. To look at, to see them and look at their behavior. Those who look for and follow the tracks of the animals are called trackers.
Alright, mark that middle sentence where it says it may seem discouraging not to see these larger animals, but another way to see them and look at their behavior is tracks. Because this is how sometimes scientists, because they can't follow around bears or larger animals because the bears don't like it, they can look at the tracks to see, okay, where did they go? What are they doing over here? What do they probably do? Are they eating food? Are they drinking water? So sometimes people will study the tracks. Plus hunters, like the picture, will also follow the tracks. So just make a note of book to study animals, sometimes we follow their tracks instead. Alright, who wants to read next? Alright, Danielle. Alright, be sure to read it aloud so Josh can hear you.
The best known animal tracks are the markings that animals make with their feet. However, other markings can also be tracked. Some animals leave marks with their tails, scratch tree bark, or leave fur behind when rubbing against brush. The best times to look for tracks are after heavy rains or a fresh snow. The tracks left then will be distinct and fresh. Other tracks, although not fresh, can be found in hardened mud.
Why do you think you typically find tracks in mud? Alright?
These are things better.
Because since the mud is soft. Now, also typically, if you're gonna find mud, what typically is around mud as well? It's kind of a thinking question. Jaden?
Is it?
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, partly. Like, what's typically what resources around mud that all the animals have to come get?
Water.
Water. So that's one reason if you find a stream somewhere or a pond, try to walk around the edge and try to look at the mud around it, because all animals have to come drink and all animals have to come get water at some point. And so the animals typically know where the good ponds and rivers are. So check the mud around them and try to see, okay, maybe I might be finding a deer track or a raccoon track in this mud, because they have to come drink water eventually, so maybe they came to this one. Alright, who wants to read next? Alright, Scott.
Two key features of tracks are size, number of toes, claw marks, and movement. Size is one easiest characteristic to identify. Every animal, even those of the same species, will leave differently sized tracks. You can use size to determine the gender or age of an animal.
Hunters typically do this really well because they want to know if it's a buck or a doe. Why do you think hunters want to know if it's a if it's a buck or a doe?
Because they mainly don't want to kill the mom just because it might be pregnant, and they mainly want the men for the antlers.
And there's different hunting seasons where it's okay to hunt the females whenever they're not, whenever they're not pregnant or whenever they don't have a baby with them. And then there's a different season whenever it's okay to hunt the boy deer. So that's how come they have to know which season is it, which one is it okay to hunt right now. Yes, Glenn. You ready? All right, go.
Number of animals that can give you clues to identify the animal. If you see two toes, you are probably seeing an improved animal like a deer or moose. One toe is looking for foot and nine feet actually indicate cats, dogs, fox, and rabbits. 5 toes can mean a raccoon and a bear. 4 toes on the front feet and 5 toes on the hind feet usually indicates one nice kitten.
So that's what some people, they will look at the number of toes or how it's arranged on their feet to figure out, what type of animal is it? So as you're looking at this picture, and again, you don't have to note like which one goes with which, you'll notice that the shape of the paw print is a little bit different, the number of toes at the front is a little bit different. Not to mention, if you have the two-toed ones, like the ones over here with the deer, that it looks kind of like 2 half circles or 2 crescent shapes. That's because of how their hooves are shaped. Now some of them just look extra weird, like the possum and the armadillo. So we don't have those a whole lot in our area, but that's one reason why people want to look at like the paw shapes or the hand prints, try to figure out, what is this? Alright, who wants to read next?
No, you have to do that.
Lana. Did you already read Lana? I don't think you did. Okay, go.
Claw marks on tracks can also identify an animal. If you find a set of tracks with 4 toes and one triangular main pad, you may wonder if it is a cat, dog, or fox track. But if you see claw marks on those tracks, you can narrow your choices to either a dog or fox, because cats rarely show claw marks very well.
Alright, so thinking about it. Alright, so based on that, is this a dog, fox, or cat type of paw print? Alright, Lana?
It's probably a dog or a fox track.
Alright, now what does the book say? Do they walk out, let's see, if you look at it, so if you see claw marks on the tracks, you can narrow your choices to either a dog or a fox, because they have their claws out pretty much all the time. Now, do you see claw marks on these? No, so is it a cat or a dog?
It's a cat.
It's a cat. Now cats, they also have claws, but typically they don't run or walk with them out. Most cats, they only pull them out whenever they're fighting. Now sometimes if they're running really quick, they might pull them out to help them have like extra grip. But a lot of kids, if they're just walking around, they walk with their claws pulled in it. This is actually bobcat's paw prints. So I I found a picture of them just to help show it for you. But this is an example of a cat print. Alright, who wants to read the last one for this section? Evie.
An animal tracks sometimes have distinct characteristics when the animal runs. When a white-tailed deer runs, it spreads out its two main toes and leaves marks from its dew claws, two small toes high on the leg that normally do not reach the ground. As cottontail rabbits run, they place their hind legs ahead of their forelegs, with their front right foot ahead of the other front right foot.
Good job. Alright, so looking at this, here's a picture of some deer tracks. Now, based on what Evie just read, is this deer running or walking?
Walking.
Walking. How do you know?
Because it doesn't have little like.
Yeah, the two little deer claws. This is what it looks like. If it looks kind of like a footprint, a really small person's footprint, you can see that, okay, here's the deer claw, or the two little holes. Because the deer is running so quick, that's how come his toes or his hooves are spread out a little bit more. If you look at the previous slide, you'll notice that his toes are a lot closer together because he's not really stressed out. He's not really running that fast. But whenever they're more spread out, he's trying to balance as he's running as well. Okay, Glenn? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to say something else. Do you hunt a lot, Glenn? I said, you seem like you hunt a lot. Do you see tracks like this? Do you ever get to kill anything? No. Sorry, Glenn.
I might just
Okay, hopefully so. But yeah, this is an example of a running deer track, just to kind of help you see it. Alright, as like an extra one, anyone think they know what type of animal track this is? This one's kind of common. You might have seen this one before. Okay?
A fox.
Not a fox.
A bear.
Okay, you can't keep guessing.
A dog.
Yep.
A rabbit.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Bear.
Nope. Right, Lon?
No, I
Cat.
Yep. Okay, look. Alright, this one's a little bit. Alright, this one's a little bit harder for it. Let me make sure I have the right slide up for it. Oh, I forgot this one. This one, I believe, if I remember correctly, I wrote down the wrong number. This one is a coyote, if I remember correctly for it. What? I know, I'm sorry. I forgot. I wrote down the wrong slide. Alright, what is this one? This one you might have recognized before.
Possum.
Nope.
No, not possum. Raccoon.
Yes. So this one is a raccoon. This one, it has long, skinnier finger. And it looks kind of like it has long fingernails. That's because of its claws as well. Alright, this one's a little bit harder. Anyone think they can figure out what this one is? There's a little skinny line. Okay?
A turtle.
It is a
Oh,
turtle.
yeah.
That's its tail that he drags behind him. So this one is a turtle. So again, you don't have to know which one is which. It's just kind of just for fun and just for extra practice. Alright, so moving on from it. Your book talks about as well on the next page. Now we're getting into freshwater habitats. So I'm going to go back to the slide where it's showing these. So freshwater environments. Now keep in mind these are water environments. So if they're a water environment, is it considered terrestrial? Scott? Nope. So we have a special name for these. We call water environments aquatic environments or water environments. So just make a note of that. Aquatic, it's spelled a little funky, so just be careful. Aquatic environments, this refers to water environments. This could be a pond, could be a lake, could be a stream, could be the ocean. These just means water in general. Now, if it has fresh water in it, now, if it has fresh water, what does that mean? Alright, Katie.
It's fresh.
Okay, so can you drink it?
Most likely.
Okay, yeah, now, what it means is that there's no salt in it, basically.
Yeah.
Now, should you ever go out and just start drinking pond water? No. Why?
Fish.
Okay, yes. And then also, there's other things in it, okay?
Bacteria.
Bacteria. What happens if you just drink pond water? Okay, that was very graphic, but yes, you may die. You will probably throw up first, or get diarrhea, or something else kind of gross and nasty. So, it's not going to be fun. So, today, don't go out and just drink it. Now, the water it doesn't have salt. Let's look at we call it fresh water, but still don't go out and drink it. Think, oh, fresh water. Nope, don't do that today. Too dangerous. So, to make a note that ponds, lakes, rivers, and streams, we call those fresh water specifically because they don't have any salt in them. Or if they do, it's very, very small. So, ponds, lakes, rivers, and streams, fresh water. Make a note for those. Your book gives you some example of freshwater fish like largemouth bass, rainbow trout. different types of other small fish. You don't have to note them. But just point out that if your grandfather or if you like to go fishing, these are probably the types of fish that he likes to catch, like trout or bass. Those are some of the most common ones that a lot of people like to go if they're freshwater fishing. That's really common for it. Sometimes your parents or your grandparents might like to go saltwater fishing. That's entirely different for it. Now, your book does point out that some of the even though these are freshwater animals that live in the water, other animals also have to come to the lakes, rivers, and streams. So some animals, like the bullfrog or turtle, they may not live directly in the water, but they still have to use the water to survive. You might even find larger animals around it, like the beavers or deer. Now keep in mind, why do the larger animals come to the rivers? We've talked about this already today, right? For water. And then some animals make their homes close to the water. Like beavers, they like to build their beaver dams in the water for protection typically. Bullfrogs, they like to be among water, so that way they can get their nutrients and water that way from it. They can't dry out because of their skin. Turtles as well, they like the water. So just because you have an animal that lives near your pond, they might not be an aquatic animal, but they still live around the ponds in that environment. So your book points out some terrestrial animals like beavers and raccoons, they use the aquatic environments as food sources as well. Alright, your book has a brain bite on this page. It's kind of like extra information. I want to give you a chance to use your voice as well for it. Alright, so I think Scott hasn't read yet. So Scott, you read? Alright, has everyone had a turn reading yet? Pretty sure I got through pretty much everybody earlier. Except for Hayden, because Hayden was guilty. Alright, Hayden.
What am I reading for?
On page 14, the brain bite.
Waddling beetles, which travel on the surface of the ponds, have special detectors on their antenna for determining the movements and location of other beetles.
Good job. So whirligig beetles. So you want to point out this is just kind of just an interesting animal that lives at the surface of the pond. Alright, so that's for freshwater environments. Now your book is switching over and talking about the saltwater environment. A saltwater environment, we call these more specifically marine. So keep in mind, freshwater is water that doesn't have really hardly any salt in it. A marine environment, this specifically means that it has salt in it. Now, most students, whenever they think of the Marines, they're thinking of the branch of the military. Okay, that is a branch. But keep in mind that specifically, when I'm talking about it as a science and with the environment, whenever you're talking about a marine environment, you mean salt water. So make a note for that. So marine refers to an environment of the seas and oceans which contain a lot of salt. How many of you have been to the beach before? It looks like pretty much everyone. How many of you've never been to the beach?
I've never even been to Florida.
Alright, how many of you've had like a cut or something on your arm or on your leg, and then you jumped into the ocean and then you realized, yes, I have a cut on my arm or leg. How'd it feel, Scott? Yeah. That's because the salt in the ocean is cleaning basically the wound. It'll help your body heal it faster. That's one reason why if you have sometimes a mouth ulcer, or if you have something in your mouth, your mom might tell you to go gargle salt water, or if you have a sore throat, to gargle salt water. It's not fun and it tastes horrible. But that's the reason why is the salt helps clean it and helps kind of your body heal it faster. That's the reason why, even if you don't know you have cuts or scrapes on your body and you get into the ocean, you realize very quickly because the ocean is now cleaning the wound for you to help you heal. It is doing it naturally for you. Okay.
Last time we went to the beach, which was this summer, I got stung by a jellyfish, and I still have a scar on my knee where it stung me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did the lifeguard help you?
There's no lifeguard, dude. It was a red flag.
Why? You went to the beach. Yeah. Did anyone pour vinegar on it?
No, I just had to deal with it.
Yeah. My little sister, whenever we went to the beach, this had to have happened a year or two ago. You know how sometimes you'll have those really large jellyfish in the water? One of the tentacles, she didn't see it, and it wrapped around her leg, like it looped around it, and her whole leg went like numb, where she couldn't use that leg anymore. She was basically paralyzed in that leg, and so she knocked the jellyfish off because she was panicking, and she just like kicked at it until it got untangled. But then her friend had to come help her and like drag her back to the beach because she couldn't move that leg anymore, and she said that it hurt so bad. Thankfully there was a lifeguard on duty, and whenever you get stung by a jellyfish, if you dump vinegar on the wound, it burns, but it also helps neutralize the poison. So because of that, the lifeguard had the vinegar and helped dump it on her leg for her. But she had this long, pale, like, scar wrapped around her leg for a long time. It's partly faded now, but she could still, I'll have to ask her about it, but she could see exactly where it went around her leg for a long time, so I'm sorry. She said it hurt really, really, really
Yeah, it looked like, it was really weird, the way it stung me, it like, looked like a deer track. It was like really weird on my knees, like right here on my knee.
The tentacle must have barely bumped up into you. But yeah, I mean, they're not fun. Not fun at all. Alright, but yeah, so marine is your first saltwater, so make a note for that. Your book points out as well, depending on where you're at in the ocean, there are different types of animals. Some animals like to live in the shallow areas, some animals like to live in the slightly deeper areas, and some animals live deeper in the ocean, so it just depends on where you're at. The first section your book talks about is the intertidal zones. This is where tide pools are located. You have these more in a rocky area next to the ocean, typically at a beach because it's all sand. You don't really have these a whole lot, occasionally, but not really. So intertidal zone, make a note for that. That's the area between the highest and lowest points that the tide reaches. Because remember, how many tides are there in a day typically?
4?
Yeah, but typically you have high tide and low tide. That's the main ones for it. So because of that, you have a high tide and a low tide. And as you have the tides come in, they'll go up into that high tide, and then later on, they will pull out at the low tide. Sometimes animals, they get stuck in the rocky areas, and so you'll have basically these pools where you have water that sits, and that's where the animals basically get trapped. So we call those tide pools. So they might have sea urchins, they might have starfish. Typically, you have these more in the New England area. How many of you have seen tide pools before? Okay, a couple of you. Where'd you see them at, Scott? Okay, so yeah, so more up north. Alright, Hayden?
North Carolina.
Okay, so yeah, that's relatively close. Glenn? Okay, that's fine. And then Evie? Okay, so you can see a more like a rocky area though. So tide pools, make for the note of that. That's where you have the animals that live in those areas that are where the water has basically trapped at that point. So speaking of that, tide pools, they contain salt water and sea life that couldn't escape whenever the tide went out. Now, should you take out the starfish though and keep them out of the tide pool? No, they are designed to be in the water. Now, most of these animals, they'll be okay to take them out for like a minute or two, but you need to put them right back because these are aquatic animals, and if you take them out too long, what's going to happen to them? They die.
They'll probably die.
Yes, they will shrivel up and die. So make sure that you put them back into the water because that's where they are designed to be. Typically, the tide pool animals, they can handle it if there's not a lot of water around them temporarily, but don't just keep them out. It'll hurt them. Alright, other types of marine environment. So, coral reef is the next major one. Alright, did you watch anything about it?
Could you take a starfish, like get a huge bowl or whatever of water, take a starfish out and take it home with you, like if it stayed in that little cup of water?
Alright, but how would you feed them?
I don't know,
Yeah, that's a
clams, you can give him a bunch of clams and oysters.
I wouldn't do that just because they do need the oxygen in the water replenished. And so as you have the tides rise and fall, it brings back nutrients and fresh oxygen to them. So if you keep them in a smaller container, this is one reason why if you kept a goldfish in a small bowl and your goldfish kept dying, you might have wondered, why is my goldfish dying?
And you can bring them home and put them in like a tank.
Okay, at that point, if you have a salt water tank specifically, you probably could do that. But keep in mind that the ocean has a lot of salt, plus it has a lot of pH, which we'll learn about, I believe, later on in the year, and a lot of other chemicals in it that those types of animals need to survive. Let's see, does anyone know anyone that has a saltwater tank? Okay, so just hit it. Typically, saltwater animals and how you take care of the tank, it's super delicate because if anything gets balanced or thrown off in the tank, all your animals die on the inside of it. So it's really expensive. So if you have just one single starfish, you might could take care of them, but if anything messes up with the water, like the pH, the nutrients, how much salt's in it, then starfish won't be around too much longer. So if you do some proper research, you might could do it, but it's not something that I wouldn't just take them home just because it's very delicate and they're designed to be in an environment that has a lot of different variables. I'm sorry. Alright, so coral reefs, you know, the shallow waters in the warmer parts of the world, they sometimes have large formations called a coral reef. Now keep in mind, the coral is alive. These are living organisms as well. We don't really think about it, but these are actually little bitty living organisms that help build and grow. Probably the most common coral reef, or the most well known, is the Great Barrier Reef off Australia. That's that's the largest one. But there are other types of coral reefs. Has anyone ever been snorkeling to go see a coral reef before? Okay, where?
We went to Florida this
this past summer and we went snorkeling.
Was it fun?
Yes, it was very fun.
Alright, did they give you goggles and stuff so that you could see underwater? Yeah, 'cause you don't want to open up your eyes under the ocean. Why don't you open up your eyes in the ocean?
Because of salt.
Yeah, and it stings and it burns really bad. So that's why you gotta have your goggles and your snorkels. That way you can still breathe and you can still see all the animals underneath it. Very pretty. This picture's kind of small, but there is a lot of animal life that lives in the coral area. So that's why a lot of people like to go scuba diving, because it's really pretty and you can see a lot of different colors and lots of different animals. Alright, did you have a question or your hand was raised a minute ago, Lana? Or no? I just want to make sure. Open oceans, this is where a lot of your larger animals live, because this is where you have animals like whales, sharks, other types of fish. They live deeper in the ocean. So speaking of the open oceans, you don't have a lot of deep plants there. In some cases, you'll have algae or floating seaweed. So that's how come if you have an animal like the blue whale, they might eat the plankton or krill at the ocean surface. But there's not a lot of plants deep in the ocean. So most of your deep ocean animals are more of like your hunters that are going around and hunting other animals. Your book does point out scavengers though. Alright, what is a scavenger? Alright, good.
An animal that like finds, like a crow that finds dead stuff and then sees it.
Yeah, so a scavenger, this is an animal that feeds on dead organisms. A crow is one. Can anyone think of any other type of scavenger? Alright. Okay, Hayden?
Shark? Maybe?
Yeah, they're typically more of a carnivore where they'll go out and kill something and eat it. I don't know if they'll just find like a dead thing and eat it. Most carnivores, if they don't kill it, they don't want to eat it specifically. Alright, Evie?
Buzzard.
Buzzards or vultures? I'm sorry, was that yours? Okay. Anybody else have another one? Alright, ants in a lot of cases will eat dead things. And so those are the common scavengers, is where they go around and they eat dead things. Now keep in mind, those animals are important. Why are the scavengers important? Why do we need them?
Because they get rid of dead, like just dead stuff.
What would happen if we didn't have any scavengers?
Dead animals would be lying around everywhere.
And it's gross, and it's nasty, and it stinks. So that's how come God designed it to where you have basically the natural garbage collectors that come around and clean up the dead animals. So even though it's nasty and gross to see buzzards eating the roadkill on the side of the road, just know, well, at least they're cleaning it up, and they'll do a good job, even though it's kind of nasty and kind of gross, and buzzards are kind of scary looking. But they are supposed to be there to help clean up. So just make a note of scavengers, these are animals that feed on dead organisms. Deep in the ocean, though, you have in some species these hydrothermal vents. Alright, we practiced putting your prefixes together the other day. Does anyone remember what hydro means? I know it's kind of a longer term, okay?
Water.
Nope. Yeah, for that, I was thinking of something else. Yeah, hydro means water. Does anyone remember what thermal means, or thermo? Right? Heat. So this has to do with heating of the water. So hydrothermal vents. So your book points out that these are typically deep in the ocean. These are next to the plates of the Earth's crust typically, because there's typically volcanic activity around them. Basically the magma deep under the Earth's surface is heating it up. And so this is an area where some of the heat is escaping and it's heating up the water around it. So hydrothermal vents, this is an area where since this is deep in the ocean, it's still really cold, but around these vents, it's really warm. So to make a note, these hot springs in the ocean floor, these are called hydrothermal vents. They can raise the temperature around them, make a warm area, and you can have other animals live around them deep in the ocean. So just make a note, this is a special type of environment though. Hydrothermal vents, and they release chemicals from which specially designed organisms obtain their energy. There's no sunlight down here because it's so deep in the ocean, the sunlight can't go all the way down. So there's special types of organisms that can live off the energy given by these hydrothermal vents, and they're deep underground. Well, deep underneath the water. Alright, anyone have any questions about these environments? Alright, I think we can start it, but I don't know how far we'll get. So let's look at the safety in science. So since it's a science class, we do some hands-on activities. So your book wants to let you be aware of how you're going to be safe while you do them. Alright, I think everyone read earlier, so we'll go backwards and try to give some more people a chance to read. Alright, we'll start with you, Hayden.
Your science book has many lab activities to enhance the material covered in the text and to give you the opportunity to get involved in science class. In a laboratory, safety does not just happen, it requires careful planning and common sense. For each lab, read all the instructions and gather the materials before beginning.
Pay attention to your teacher during the activities and follow all instructions carefully.
Good job. So, mark that sentence, read all the instructions, and gather all your materials before starting. Don't just decide, I'm gonna YOLO this. No, just read everything. Make sure you know exactly what you're doing. Alright, who wants to read next? Alright, Jake.
Luna says you should.
Yep.
You should know about basic lab equipment. The most common piece of lab equipment are the glassware. The beaker.
Yep.
The beaker is a wide mouthed glass container, while the flask is the neck that narrows toward the mouth. Both are available in any sizes. Beakers and flasks are made from specially designed glass that allows them to withstand high temperatures without melting. The glass also resists shatters when moving between two extreme temperatures.
Good job. So these are beakers. I don't have a flask, but a beaker basically looks like a giant kind of cup that's basically the same radius all the way around, just a little big lip. Now these are obviously two different sizes of a beaker. The markings tell me how much water I can put on the inside of them. Now, if you were to pick them up, you'll notice that they're a lot heavier than normal glass. That's because typically you put really hot things in these or really cold things, and you change the temperatures really quick. How many of you've taken a glass cup and you heated it up and then you stuck it underneath cold water because you didn't know? Alright. Yeah, what happened?
It broke.
Yeah, it'll shatter if you heat up regular glass to a hot temperature and then cool it down. The glass can't handle that and it basically breaks and it's really loud and dramatic and then you feel bad because now you broke your mom's glass. What, raise your hand? I just couldn't hear you. Okay, well make sure you raise your hand then before just talking out. So that's the reason why they have thicker glass, so that way they can actually stand it better, and the glass is specially designed to where it doesn't break whenever you change temperatures. Now, if I were to drop it on the ground, will it break? Probably. Now, depending on how high it was, it might still be okay, but these are expensive, so we're not going to test to figure out how high I can drop them and it'll still be okay. So, don't drop them. If I ask you to help me with something, don't just decide, it'll be fine. No, it probably won't, and then I'll be mad. So, make sure that you are careful if we use these later on. Be very careful with it, even the small ones. Alright, so who wants to read next? Lynn. Good.
You have to use the thermometer in lab. Beware of that. Temperature scale with thermometer use a note the range available on it. Is it Celsius or Fahrenheit? Is it better from freezing to boiling or ordinary refrigeration?
Alright, I didn't bring a thermometer with me, but since we're going through coronavirus area, then you are very familiar with the thermometer and how to use it and what to use for it, because you get your temperature checked every single morning whenever you come to school. Yes, Hayden. Oh, are you volunteering to read?
Yes.
Didn't you just read though?
Yes.
You gotta wait. Alright, Lana.
Was it when using?
Yep.
When using electrical equipment, be sure it is turned off before you plug it in and plug it. Do not use equipment that has frayed wires. Never use electrical equipment if you have wet hands or wet clothing. This section has been designed to familiarize you with laboratory procedures and
Wait, you're going too far. Oh. Alright, so why should you not touch electrical stuff if you have wet hands? Right?
Am I electrocute you?
Yep, water allows electricity to conduct to you, so don't just start touching electrical stuff if you have water on your hands. It'll help you if you have the possibility of being electrocuted. Alright, I'm just about out of time. Really quick though, as a side note, if you break something during lab, you should always tell me, or as your book says, tell the teacher. Don't just decide, I'm going to clean it up. Depending on what it is, it might be dangerous. So go ahead and mark number 5. So if an object breaks during lab, immediately tell your teacher. Don't just decide, I'm going to keep it a secret. Maybe Miss Morse won't know. No, Miss Morse will know and find out later. So always tell me. So don't attempt to clean it up by yourself. You should always tell someone. Alright, we'll go ahead and we'll stop there until time. Your homework for tonight is Thursday. First of all, you should be studying, because tomorrow is Friday. So be ready, just in case. Also, read pages 17 through 21. And read pages 17 through 21. Answer page 21, questions 1 through 6. You do kind of a lot tonight. So all over it again. Read pages 17 through 21. Answer page 21, questions 1 through